Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are doing chapter 11 of Unlearn Your Anxiety and Depression by Dr. Howard Schubiner. It's a great chapter. It's about creating the new you. So let's go ahead and I will share my screen, get it going. Oop, okay, here it is. Okay, so I have some slides we'll go through. And I'll get the chat up so that if you have any comments that you want to put in the chat, you can do that as well if this helps you think of something. Okay, so that one, yeah, that last one was from last time. Okay, so charting your future for those to yet complete their recovery. So just kind of think to yourself what category you're in and know that this is designed, like the workbook part is 4 weeks, but you don't have to do it all in that time. And you shouldn't think if it's not working by now that it won't work for you. So remember that the pain pathways probably developed a long time ago, and it may take a while to overcome them. So there are some websites he recommends. Thank you, DrSarno.com, TMS Wiki. You can read stories of others who have recovered. One of the most important and common barriers to getting better is the persistent belief that there's something physically wrong with your body. So when you keep finding yourself um, giving that excuse of like, oh, I'm just really deconditioned and weak, or I, have this angle of my knee. And so that's why this is happening, just we know that postural changes really don't affect people. Remember that lady from The Way Out whose back was shaped like an S with scoliosis, and she got to be pain-free, chronic pain-free. So just kind of challenging your beliefs with that. If you're not sure that you have mind-body syndrome, seek out doctors who can carefully review your situation, your exam, and your testing. So that's easier said than done, but there's starting to be more and more of them out there. There's the PPDA Association.org, TMS Wiki, or painreprocessingtherapy.com that will list actual doctors and practitioners who have gone through the trainings. If you're confident that you have MBS, one option is to start the program over, but if you're being perfectionistic about it, it might not be a good idea to restart the program from the beginning. Just take a break from the structured program for a while and follow the rest of the advice in this section. So it's really not about as much like starting and doing it completely and doing it perfectly as it is learning to let go of that perfectionism that might be the thing holding you back, right? So pick and choose the exercises you'd like to complete over the next few weeks, those that give you the best opportunity to work on a particular issue in a way you find helpful. So usually you kind of know, right? It's kind of like, ooh, that one is maybe like sounds like it might be kind of hard, or it sounds like it might be good. Okay. Review chapters 9 and 10 to determine specific barriers to getting better that you may have missed. There might be some hidden parts of you to prefer not to get better. Do you remember those barriers? Sometimes there was like a woman who only got a lot of attention from her husband when she had symptoms. So she didn't consciously think about it, but subconsciously she was preventing herself from getting better because then she was scared her husband wouldn't pay attention to her otherwise, right? So it lists out those kind of barriers. And then just keep in mind that frequently it's necessary to do something actively to resolve emotional issues. So you might have to leave that job or that situation with someone who is yelling at you every day. Now it's not necessarily, we don't want to just run away from all of the things and just try to change all the situations. We want to resolve those emotional issues and learn to feel those emotions and express them. But sometimes there are some things you need to actually do. Talk to a person, draw a boundary with someone. right? On the other hand, if you've already dealt with and processed the stressful and emotional situations in your life, it can be important to stop looking in that direction for your recovery. So these slides, some of them, it almost like sounds like it's contradicting itself from one part of the slide to the next, right? It's like you might need to really go back and see if there are any emotional things that you haven't found. But sometimes that keeps people in this pain cycle when they keep thinking, oh, I've got to find that one thing. I've got to keep going back. Why isn't this working yet? There must be something emotional I haven't found. So just kind of think to yourself if you see that tendency in yourself. And for you, it might be better to kind of go live your life more and not listen to so many stories about people and not listen to so much, right? So just that's what's so tricky about this, right? So don't beat yourself up if it's been hard for you, because there isn't one perfect path for everyone, right? It's very individualized. And even from time to time, sometimes you are going to do the exercises more. Sometimes you're maybe taking a break more. One of the biggest barriers to getting better is anxiety and fear. So also kind of put this in context with yourself. Am I someone who has a lot of anxiety and fear? Because we know that just drives up the pain, right? It's just like a volume knob. So you must be able to accept that pain occurs and not panic when it does. So much easier said than done, but just keep, as you keep having experiences, hopefully you'll start to, see, okay, here's this pattern of things I worried about that didn't happen. So now when a new thing happens, oh, what might be emotionally going on rather than something physical and something scary. So you must learn to relax and have confidence that your pain will go away. Know that you are healthy and on the right path. Work to banish worry, fear, and anxiety by using the same techniques as pain, right? They're just exactly the same. Somatic tracking, being neutral, messages of safety. So anxiety can be that same way, right? Anxiety, sometimes you think, oh, I've got to go do something to feel safer, to feel better. But you can just also feel that sensation of anxiety. Oh, it's a tightness in my chest. It's a racing of my heart. It's feels like a towel that's all scrunched up, or however you visualize it, right? And as you're doing those kinds of things, your brain is realizing I can produce this less and less. So anxiety is not your go-to. And then you can write to the worry, talk to the fear, meditate on the anxiety. So remember, anxiety and fear are so common, but they will just keep you in this state of, kind of one thing after another with your body. So if you have that habit of worrying, write to that worry, that feeling of worry, and talking to the fear, meditate on the anxiety. Does that, hopefully that makes sense. If not, there are people that can help you with that kind of stuff. So do as many activities as you can. The more active you are, the quicker you'll retrain your brain and develop new non-pain pathways. Find time for activities for yourself, a minimum of 4 to 5 hours per week on fun and pleasurable activities. Okay, so think to yourself, do you have at least that in your life? Do you have more than that? Do you have way less than that? Do you not know what any fun and pleasurable activities are anymore? Right? You might be at that point. You might be saying, well, okay, it's great. He's saying go be active, but I can't get off the couch or I can't get out of bed. So what am I supposed to do? So it doesn't have to be physically active, although that can be great. And that can even be like moving your arms or, dancing, with your hands or fingers, or right, just some kind of movement. But it could also be those distracting things for your brain. You're reading a fiction book that has nothing to do with pain, right? So you're in this story, right? Or you're communicating with someone, you're calling them on the phone, right? Any of those kind of things. Basically, the less time you're thinking about pain or focused on the pain, your brain will like dehabitate, to have less and less of that habit of pain. Okay, what do you guys think about the 4 to 5 hours per week on fun and pleasurable activities as part of your homework for this? Okay, so then he gives a bunch of resources that he finds helpful that cover a lot of different topics that all relate. So mindfulness, meditation, we talked about, how meditation and mindfulness is basically this work, coming to the present moment, not thinking of the future and the past. So there's this website, mindfulnesssolutions.com. Byron Katie, Loving What is an amazing book, especially for people who are having a hard time with forgiving or really accepting that things happened. Such a good book. The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion, I've also read. That's a really good one. And the Love Responses. Self-compassion, stop beating yourself up and leave insecurity behind. Kristen Neff is like famous in the self-compassion world. So just also think to yourself, okay, maybe I've done all these other exercises, or maybe I haven't, but I haven't really felt the need to, but I'm so hard on myself. That's a barrier to recovery, right? So self-compassion might be the area that you kind of dive into a little bit more. There's hypnosis and imagery at healthjourneys.com. So again, there's just a lot of different ways to approach it, not a one size fits all. That position of power, even just standing with your chest out and your hands on your hips and your legs spread just slightly, your stance with your legs out, that can change the hormones in your body. It produce testosterone. It can, people who do that perform better in a job interview than people who don't do that. So again, to the point of like, well, I can't go out and run like I used to. And that was the thing that calmed me. And maybe all you can do is just change your posture and sit up a little taller sometimes, right? Or go outside and sit. Those little things will start to make that difference. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, and focusing. So again, there's a variety there. Yoga, you might want just like a yoga nidra, which is a sleeping yoga type of meditation where you don't actually have to move. But they're all focused on awareness. And then, of course, probably the traditional types of yoga that are more powerful flows for exercise, but yoga can be also, the yin yoga is restorative. And Tai Chi and Qigong are very cool, like with the energy of the body. And focusing, again, is this all sounding similar? Another version of like a mindfulness and meditation. And so just changing your focus. I have a very cool episode, my last episode of my podcast, Unstoppable Body and Mind. I have a technique where you can deactivate your triggers. So you can think of something that's very triggering emotionally, and then think about it and feel the emotion, and then change the focus of your eyes by doing this peripheral vision technique, and then go back and forth and do several rounds, and then your brain uncouples that trigger with response. It's very cool. You could find a psychologist, counselor, life coach at the ppdaassociation.org, tmswiki.org, or painreprocessingtherapy.com. There's the ISTDP, which you may remember is kind of what Dr. Schubiner got the idea for EAET from, and kind of modified just a little bit. So if you want to go to someone who has that background, there's the ISTDP institute.com, somatic experiencing with Peter Levine. I've done some of that work. I'm not a certified practitioner, but I think 60 hours or something, and gone to a retreat with him, which was very cool. So I like the somatic experiencing, also very similar to what we do with somatic tracking, those types of things. Sensory motor integration with Pat Ogden, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. There's a resource for that. EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's a lot of I wonder if that's a typo, EMO free. It might be emtfree.com. There are a lot of tapping videos, and there's a very cool tapping app. You do have to pay for it, but I think it's like $50 a year or something. And but they actually have ones for decreasing chronic pain or decreasing knee pain or decreasing back pain or tons of them for anxiety. And that's the tapping on the meridian points, also very helpful. And then IFS, Internal Family Systems, ifsinstitute.com. Dr. Schubiner said that that work goes so well with this work. So there's a few quotes from people who, again, after they resolve, they're not like, okay, I learned what to do to make my brain believe there's no pain. There's a bigger picture here. You change like basically your whole self. So strange as it may sound, I'm thankful for my experience with mind-body syndrome. Without the incentive from that wretched pain, I never would have looked inside myself for the answers. In doing so, I was forced to confront old demons and begin the path towards healing, both inside and out. So, like I always say, some people do this work just they don't have pain, but they want to better themselves. It's like self-improvement. So we're doing it and it helps decrease the pain and anxiety and depression. They had a summary. I like this, just like 8 key principles to treat MBS by Dr. Alicia Batson. So again, apply this to yourself as you're listening. Just kind of think, okay, yeah, that one I've got down. Oh, that one I haven't really paid attention to if you're still in the recovery process. So education about what MBS is and how it works. Accepting the diagnosis on both an intellectual level as well as a gut level. Learning new ways of interacting with your pain, which break the pain, fear, pain cycle. Understanding how certain personality traits can not only be beneficial, but also self-destructive when taken to extremes and turned on the self, right? We know about those personality traits. Learning to recognize, experience, and process emotions, right? Maybe you didn't grow up learning about emotions, expressing them, processing them. Learning to think psychologically instead of physically when pain arises. For example, my arms just started hurting again. What's going on inside emotionally right now? So as you start to do this work, you pay attention more to the emotions, to the thoughts, than to the location of the pain and what you might have eaten or done that did that. Learning to stand up for yourself with confidence and self-compassion in the face of life's inevitable stressors. So this is something that people don't realize that they have to do to get out of pain. But if your pain has that barrier, like we talked about, of, it gets me out of doing these family things with this family that's really, unbearable to be with. But when I'm really sick and I can't go, whatever it is, right? So sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and just say, no, no, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. And you can't use that excuse of my back hurts too much today, right? So not to say that you're using it as an excuse, like consciously, right? It's not to say that we're trying to do this. This is just how our body works, right? And many of us have learned to fawn instead of stand up for ourselves. So it's just our brain showing us that our body's in this like fawn mode, right? A survival state rather than being our true authentic selves. Learning to let go of fears and turn towards acceptance and joy in one's life. For some people, that's the hardest part, is like letting go of the fear all the time that they think is keeping them safe, to be so afraid and on high guard, and starting to feel joy and feel, like I don't have to be perfect, and there are people that like me, and even if they don't, I like me, right? Like all this stuff. Okay, so maybe you're feeling like you've recovered, or you're in at least a phase that is, nothing really is going on from day to day. You may want to keep working and learning about yourself. I mean, even if you don't have pain, that's a good idea, right? For everyone. It's just like, in the 40s and 50s, people never really went to the gym. And now it's like a given. Most people know like going to the gym is healthy, exercise is healthy. That's just part of it. And then we never really did an emphasis on mental health, but now people are realizing like having a therapist, having a coach, like that's just good mental hygiene. So consider continuing exercises from this book in some way, whether keeping a diary, writing unsent letters or dialogues, or meditating regularly. It doesn't mean you have to do writing letters every single day the rest of your life. It means do something, some form of what is working for you. For me, I used to journal a lot when I first started this, and now I journal maybe once every 2 weeks or something, right? So start to learn, you can back off the intensity, but you also do want to just keep a pulse on what's going on in your emotions, in your brain, all that. Use the affirmations and continue to remind yourself that you're healthy, strong, and able to withstand stressful events. Because, like, what can happen? What happened with one of my clients is she started having the capacity to do so much more that then she's like interested in starting a business and putting herself out there in this way. So she's having stressors that she is choosing, but it's still stressful. So you're still, at the potential to have symptoms again. So this could be a sign of evolving, right? That you're having something with your body and mind, but don't expect that necessarily once you've recovered, you never have pain again because, then you're out there trying new things and your nervous system's like, wait, we might get emotionally hurt again. So, right. So you have symptoms or stress, right? Okay, again, so you may still get symptoms since your body serves as a built-in alarm system. It will alert you when things that are occurring in your life are troubling, even if you are not aware that you're upset. Do you remember that example Dr. Schubiner gave of walking into the kitchen, suddenly his back hurt, and he realized that he was thinking of some painful situation. The way he was interpreting it was painful with a person that was stressing him out. It was totally below his conscious awareness, but your body's that alarm system. Oh, hey, you're thinking of this wrong. Hey, you're scaring yourself here. Okay, you may need to see your doctor. However, since you understand MBS, you'll want to look for issues in your life as a cause for new symptoms. This is so important, right? The brain can do any of the symptoms, basically, any things you can think of. The brain can do that under stress as well. Often it's easy to identify them when you take a few minutes to think. So don't freak yourself out about trying to find the emotional cause for every little thing. If you stub your toe or something, you're like, okay, maybe. But when you get a new symptom, not running to Google, not running to the doctor first, but thinking about emotionally what's going on. Even if you're like, I'm not really stressed about it though. Well, maybe your body's telling you something different, right? The quicker you identify MBS, you can stop symptoms from taking hold. So some people will get a new thing and they kind of laugh about it and they're like, huh, okay, I was just talking to my friend about it. Funny that I got it. And they laugh. And then a few minutes later or hours later, it's gone. So that is the key to this, is reacting calmly and with less fear and less anxiety. And then the brain knows it can turn those symptoms off. You may want to help others. So who's in this boat of like, you overhear, I overhear this stuff all the time. Oh, I have migraines. Oh, I have IBS. Oh, I can't eat this food, right? Be forewarned. Most people you tell about this will not be interested, or they'll refuse to think that their condition could be MBS. I don't know about most, but maybe, yeah, most, I don't know. I've found if I just talk to them about stress, then people at least agree to some level that stress makes things worse. But they might not be willing to have you have a whole conversation about what they should do, right? You can just plant a little seed. If there were fewer stigmas attached to the idea that the mind can cause real pain and other symptoms, more people would get the kind of help they really need rather than receiving medical testing and treatment that is ineffective or even harmful. In addition, healthcare costs would decline by eliminating unnecessary testing and treatments. Yeah, when they can show that a placebo surgery worked as well as a real scope for the knee, then, why have these expensive surgeries when, you could just have a really expensive placebo, or you could address it another way. The placebo works just as well. Okay, so questions, comments. Let's go to our group here and just see what you guys are thinking. We still have a lot of time. So what's on your mind? You feel like this chapter helped you in any ways, kind of assess where you are and have a direction of where to go from here? We can always end early if you want. Don't have to make it awkward. Oh, okay. Trina, hey, just in time.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So, I went to, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to mind body doc. I can never remember acronyms, but
Oh, yeah.
um,
BS. Or, yeah.
you
They
know,
call it all different things now. It's so hard.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough, I live on the East Coast. I was able to fly out to the West Coast and get a doctor
Nice.
who's one of the ones from I think it's what the PPD Association or whatever.
Yeah.
Is
Great.
that it?
Yeah. The
Is that it?
PPD.
Yeah.
Yeah. PPD.
Yeah. Yeah.
PDA. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, he was able to physically examine me and said that I was kind of like a mixed bag between structural and mind body.
Okay.
But he still thought, of course, pursue the mind body because it's not going to hurt.
Hmm.
And so I just want to say, like, that, my pain has never been fully gone, but it's better.
Yay.
And but I don't know what part of it is subconscious that he even told me that I was a mixed bag. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So who knows
Mhm.
if my subconscious is saying, or my unconscious brain, whatever, is still kind of, hanging on to that at all. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because
Oh,
you just don't know, right?
yeah.
um because I've had, long-term chronic pain. So
Yeah.
but I've really found that I've had some really good days, so that makes me
Mhm.
feel like so hopeful towards, like, yes, like maybe I'll never be completely out of pain, or maybe I will, but at least I can be like much better than I was, because I
Mhm.
have the evidence that I've gotten to that better place with my pain.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And then another thing that I was going to add, so for anybody out there that still has any doubt that their pain is possibly structural or whatever, that even if it was, that you're still, this work is going to help you tremendously regardless. And
Yeah.
then, so the other thing was that I had like an incredibly stressful situation that just occurred the other day, and I won't go into what it was, but imagine kind of like a very, very, very bad scenario with your child.
Mm,
And I was able to not get stressed out about it. I slept well last night. I slept well the night after.
amazing.
My initial reaction, like years ago or before I had this kind of knowledge from all of this information that you're giving, would have been to like jump into action and want to fix it and want it to be,
Mhm.
not be impatient and be worried and be scared and all that kind of things that would trigger so much anxiety. But with all this kind of learning that I've done through through your class and through all the books and the podcast and the classes and everything has just calmed my brain to a point where it's like, I'm just a much more patient person, which I never thought I could be.
Yeah.
And if you had talked to me 5 years ago, I would have been saying, oh no, impossible.
Yeah.
And then just the last thing is that I think one of the things that calmed down my brain the most is I found art. And art, just being in the flow of life doing art for
Yeah.
so many hours in a day,
Mhm.
that just takes your brain offline from
Mhm.
perseverating about pain and worry and anything that you're going through, because it's just completely pretty much gone while you're engrossed in whatever you're engrossed in. And for
Mhm.
everybody, it's going to be different. It could be music, it could be
Yeah.
gardening, it could be you fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But I'm doing like very you know low cost. Like if you said, well, I don't have the money to do it, like, I mean, I roll paper, which is quilling, like it's like so cheap. You can, paper is cheap, and
Yeah.
you can do it around a needle or something. But
Uh-huh.
so it's not like expensive, a lot of money to put out. But I just think that getting your mind off it, and I know that it kind of sounds like distraction, but if you can get into something that you really love and enjoy, that
Mhm.
I think that it takes your mind. I think I spent so much time in that not thinking about my pain, that
Mhm.
it finally, I hit a tipping point. Like, I never thought I could find that tipping point, and I feel like I finally found that I'm on the other side of that tipping point where things are happening faster because I stuck with it and I was patient with myself. And you
Yeah.
know, it's never going to happen when you're watching it, just like, that saying, a watch pot never boils,
Yes.
right? So it's like not when you're like trying, and you're in it and you're in it and you're saying, I've made you have that self-talk of, I'm not doing well, and I'm just a dummy. I can't get this, and everybody else has gotten this and I haven't gotten it. But finally, when I started being kind to myself and talking to myself, not like I was myself, but I was a good friend or whoever, and
Mhm.
being kind to myself and giving myself credit for the wins, for
Mhm.
even how tiny, tiny, tiny they were, but
Yeah.
giving myself credit for those. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I'm long winded.
Oh, no, I loved it. Every bit of that. That was so great. Cause like, um, shifting that focus, sometimes, like you said, oh, maybe it's distraction. Well, sometimes we want to distract our brain from just worrying, right? We need to teach it new neural pathways. And somehow our society has just trained us to believe we need to just be on this, high intensity mode all the time. And right. So as you're hearing, this isn't just about like, you know, how to somatic track to decrease your pain. This is about finding that self-compassion, being easier on yourself, finding a new way of living that's not as high stress, right? Changing some of those things to where you're living a life that's more pleasurable and joyful and fun instead of just worrying and, making yourself sick all the time, right? In that sense. So, super, super helpful. As you were talking, Trina, it just made me think of like in physical therapy, we would use some measures of pain that instead of, sometimes we're just like very black and white about it. Like I had a pain-free day or I didn't and it was a bad day or it was, whatever, right? So one way that I would ask people, like kind of to rate their progress, is just think of like if 100% is all the way better, what percent better they think they are, right? Or how much less pain they feel like they have, what percent. Um, Also, you could think of three components of pain: the frequency, the intensity, and the duration. So the frequency is like how often you're getting it, right? I get it, every other day or 5 days or 5 times per day. And then it goes down to 2 times per day or only just once a day, right? That's progress. We want to celebrate that. We want to see that. So frequency, intensity, it used to get up to a 9 or 10. And now, even though it still happens just as often, it only gets up to a 5. So like that's progress. You want to see that as progress. that you're in the right direction. And then duration, how long it lasts. Because I've had some people say, I still get the pain every day. And then as we talk, they get it for like 3 seconds and then they calm themselves down and it goes away. And, that's a whole different story than being in pain for 6 hours. You know what I mean? Right. So the way we talk about it, even we can kind of like look at the negative, like how far we have to go, or we can look at some of these finer points of like, okay, I'm not where I want to be yet, right? I'm not at 100% yet, but I've definitely like made progress along the way. And I can see a few of these factors have changed. And then that gives you more hope, which gives you more calm and less fear, right? So just wanted to mention that just to remind you of things you can look for instead of we're often trained to like look for the negative things. This is how I really, one of the main things I learned is like instead of looking at myself for all the negative things for me to improve, like looking at what is good already, what I do like about myself, what I have strengths in, and knowing that I don't have to be perfect at everything, right? So okay, let's go to the chat. So PJ said 2 useful books for different activities to live your life. The Pain Management Workbook. Oh yeah, you can just come on, PJ, by Rachel Zoffness and Chronic Pain Reset by Anton Hassett. Okay, I have the Pain Management Workbook and I haven't even gone through it yet, but maybe that could be our next book club. Did you have a?
Yeah. I think the two books are good complements to Dr. Schubiner's book.
Mm.
In the pain management workbook goes through a whole number of different strategies
Ooh.
you can use to feel better. And then you could kind of make your own menu.
Mm-hmm.
How do I deal with triggers? How do I pace activities? What kind of exercise do I like to do?
Yeah.
And so there's a whole list of categories and you make your own list.
Yeah.
And then the idea is every day you try to do at least 5 things
Mm-hmm.
from your menu.
Mm-hmm.
So
How's that been for you? Is that a pretty reasonable amount of things, do you think? Or is it like
well, I mean, some
things?
of it's very simple, like just thinking of something you're grateful for. Or
Mm-hmm.
it could be going outside
Yeah.
or
Yes.
getting some exercise. Or you can combine the two, getting exercise outside.
Yeah.
That kind of, so that's
Gotcha.
like the idea of trying to do 5 little things every day that make you feel better. Now,
Yeah.
the second book, Chronic Pain Reset, has just been published. And in that book, after, the first part is about, kind of the theory of pain and how it works, which is in line with everything we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are like 30, 31 different exercises. Every day for a month, you try something new.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that you like, then those go into your menu of
Mm-hmm.
how to feel better going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So these 2 books both have a lot more specific suggestions on activities you can do to feel better and live your best life. So I think they're a great complement to Dr. Schubiner's book.
Nice. That's so important. Just having a menu or a toolbox, as sometimes they say, right? And not thinking I've got to just do the same thing every day, right? Because sometimes we're more activated, sometimes we're more in a frozen state, right? So just getting to know what works for us and just figuring out from each little experience and putting it into practice, right? It's not something you can just like read about and just like be like, oh, okay, now I know. It's like riding a bike. You can't just read about it and then just know how to ride a bike. You have to, go through all of it and see how it is on different, surfaces and right. So,
Yeah, well, that's actually very important because I just got on my bike for the first time in several years.
mm-hmm,
So I know how to ride a bike, but I'm pretty rusty.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
the theory's there, but in terms of physically
Yeah.
riding the bike.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just kind of meeting yourself where you're at, being patient, realizing it's just, something that takes some practice and actually doing rather than just reading about. And yeah, that's really good. Okay, Chris says art for flow state. I like knitting on round looms, very soothing. Yeah, yeah. I know when I first started this stuff, I was like, okay, I wanted to do something that was like productive as well as relaxing, right? So I would think of, like, okay, I would scrapbook or I would do one time I remember like trying to schedule some me time and I was like, I'll buy a ukulele and learn how to play a new instrument. And when I actually thought about it, that was not relaxing, right? Like it was something that I wanted to achieve, another thing that I wanted to achieve that was less obvious of a, achievement thing. But I've actually gotten proud of the fact that I can like watch some reality TV now and not think, okay, if I watch TV, I'm only going to do that. And right, I can like have some times where I just take little breaks and do little nice things for myself. And it actually makes me more productive, not lazy, right? It actually, just like I feel like yeah, anyway, let's go to Chris because you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just was going to say with the knitting,
Yeah.
you tend to want to do it more in the winter,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can just you don't have to learn really how to knit. If you just do it on the loom, it's super simple. And then you can donate hats and scarves to the needy people that need them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just knit one winter, you won't be able to distribute them till next winter, but
Yeah.
that works.
Oh,
Um,
I love that.
yeah. So this week I had a death in my family, and I've been really doing very well. I decided to start going through my family history, and it's been so interesting.
Mhm.
And I'm actually I'm like rewarding myself, like, well, if you get this done, you can go do that. So
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. It's like you
yeah,
found this very specific thing that like might not turn someone else on, right? They might not like it, but then you're like, oh, okay, I'm like getting into this and this is fun for me. And yeah, like for me, I love dancing and other people would hate it maybe. Or I'm trying to think of another example that, is just I just had one on the top on the tip of my tongue, but now I forgot it. But yeah, it could be something like that you're rewarding yourself with. That's so cool.
yeah, I love dancing too. So I do put music on quite a bit, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I was gonna say there's an app that I really like.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have tried it. It's called Fabulous.
Mm-mm.
Very charming, and the price has gone down extraordinarily.
Uh-huh.
So it's only like $40 a year,
Uh-huh.
and it's super charming, and it's built on science. So like you don't add too many projects at once,
Uh-huh.
and you get you get reinforced with rewards when you do stuff.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I'm gonna look at
and yeah, I really like it. And like I said, the sounds on it are very. It's got great sounds to it and great art
Mhm.
and readings. It's just I highly recommend it now that it's affordable.
Okay,
So
that's cute. Yeah. Yeah.
fabulous.
And yeah, it says fabulous daily habit tracker and kind of along those lines too, like I sometimes have found it's really helpful to have like you get a new journal or you get a new notebook or something or calendar. And then other times I'm like, I want less of that, right? Like the daily habits might be really helpful, or you might also be like, okay, um, I'm not going to put pressure on myself to do like 10 things for my self-help each day, right? Like minimizing. Of course, you still want to do things that are calming to your nervous system, but thinking of it as kind of more flowy than, I have to do this thing. Or sometimes I've heard people say things like, I'm really bad about starting things and not finishing them, and they shame themselves for it, rather than just saying like, okay, I have all these different interests and it's totally okay to just kind of float from one to another and just follow this stream of excitement of what I like and figuring that out, almost like I'm dating myself and like figuring out what I like again, right? Sometimes people think it's helpful to think about what they liked as a child, oh, I was really into like reading about mermaids, or maybe I played outside a lot, or maybe I like to just lay in the grass and look at the clouds, and right. So just thinking about what you can do so we're like not only just decreasing the fear and the pain, but like increasing things in our life that feel good and that bring us joy and pleasure, and right. Okay, I like it. Oh, yeah, no new comments. Anything else, you guys? How do you feel like this book has been for you? Learn a lot? Did you get a chance to do a lot of the exercises? I do have one more thing I was going to share with you. There aren't any other comments. So I was thinking of how we could combine some coaching with, where's this? With this workbook. So as you know, the workbooks for Unlearn Your Pain and Unlearn Your Anxiety, the last part of it, they're all the same. So all of this, oh yeah, PJ says did some exercises, not a lot. Yeah, so sorry, I lost my train of thought because I looked on that. Okay, starting over. Okay. What I was thinking we could do for this next, like for a book club advanced group, integration group, is over the summer, it's actually going to start next week, a 12-week program to focus on doing the exercises from the workbook. I was just kind of thinking of, how I felt when I started going through the workbook. Felt like a lot. I didn't feel like I had the emotional capacity every single day to do every single exercise. So I'm breaking it down. Instead of 4 weeks, it's going to be 12 weeks. And each week you'll have a workbook that has like something to do 4 days per week, like some writing assignment, like the unsent letters or the dialogues, just 4 out of 7 days per week, so that you have, a few days to have in between, however you like to, and then still do a meditation each day, but that's the main focus. So if you're like, okay, over the summer, it's going to be so crazy, I don't have time to do this, it's less of a focus on like reading material and consuming it, but more of a focus on like, okay, setting aside 20 minutes, 4 days per week or something, right, to do this. And if you do it all, you'll get through, every single one of those things. You don't have to do every single one, remember, but you'll get through it all over the summer. And so 4 out of 7 days per week. And then in this group, you'll also have access to my coaching group calls, which are Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Mountain and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Mountain. So that's 1 p.m. on Tuesday Eastern and 8 p.m. on Thursday Eastern. Now, those are optional if you're already like, okay, this already sounds like too much. Those are just like Q&A calls, like, office hours. And then I'm there, I'm going to be coaching people. So you can jump on, but you also don't need to like, say I have to commit to every single group call if you have a busy summer. But you do want to prioritize these. These are 6 one-on-one calls with me for 60 minutes each. So like basically every other week, you'd have a one-on-one session with me. So if you are interested in that, you can look on my website, bodyandmindlifecoach.com, integration group. if you hold your phone up there with the camera thing on, you can scan this VR code and just press on there. It'll go to that link. But, you know, just let me know if you can't find it and have any other questions. Like I said, I wanted to do an offer that would combine some of the coaching with and kind of accountability, right? Not in a harsh way, but just someone to check in with, like a study buddy, like a partner in a group that's going through the same thing and you know, has kind of this exact schedule instead of thinking we're going to do all this stuff in 28 days, spreading it over 12 weeks. Okay, you guys, we still have a few minutes. Is there any other thing you want to say, anyone? Or ask? Maybe we're just gonna be done early. Go enjoy the rest of Memorial Day if you're a place that has that off and have plans. If not, just try and do something fun today and something that is enjoyable for you. And we have one more week of book club. We'll meet next week for the frequently asked questions chapter. It's a really good one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.